Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, back again with another estate agent stories with a gentleman called Neil Briggs, who is one of Milton Keynes' leading estate and letting agents. Thanks for joining me today, Neil.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
It's a pleasure. I want to talk to you about your story as becoming an estate agent, the ups and downs, so we can teach the boys and girls out there in estate agency land the lessons that you've learned, so they don't make the same mistakes.
Okay.
Or also on the other side of the coin, learn from your successes, so they can have a lift up. Is that okay?
That's fine, yeah.
Good stuff. So Neil, when you were at secondary school, did you crave to be an estate agent?
No, kind of fell in it more than luck than by judgment.
How did you fall into it?
So I used to sell cardboard boxes for a living, so I was a salesman for corrugated packaging, and I realised that I knew far too much about boxes and needed to really get a different career.
So you wanted to stack up your career? Yeah. Like that.
Yeah, well, I used to work in this office, and there was this guy that he lived and breathed cardboard, and it's like he'd been at the company for over 20 years. I thought, I don't want that to be me, so I applied for a job for a trainee mortgage broker at Countrywide.
What year was that then?
2001.
So how old would you have been then?
Well, I was 24, so still fairly young.
Okay. Were you married at this point?
No, never married.
Young, free and single?
Yes, still young, free and single. So
ready to mingle?
Yeah, no, live with my partner, but you know, we're so I was still young lad about town, and didn't really know much about property apart from buying my own one when I was 18.
So you're about to say you moved out your home. I mean, 18 was quite young, but then this was the 90s. People did that, didn't they?
Yeah. So
and that was in MK, was it? Milton Keynes?
Newport Pagnell, yes. So I bought my first little part. So yeah, with the posh bit. So people from Newport Pagnell don't like it being called Milton Keynes because it's literally just outside on the border, but it's as broad as it is long. So
what made you want to buy a house at 18?
I was kind of told by my parents that I couldn't live under their roof the way I was living my life, so I had to either move out into rented or purchasing. It was cheaper to buy than it was to rent. So mum and dad did help me out with deposit and stuff, but I had a full-time job baking bread and decided to buy rather than rent.
So you were a baker at that point?
I was a baker, yeah, a master baker.
There you go. So you know how the proving and the.
Well, it was at Tesco, so it wasn't that artisan, but yeah.
Good stuff. So you know how to break out the bread and prove it. I tell you what, it's a good skill. So you were a baker and you moved into cardboards, but then you decided you wanted to branch out. What made you want to become a mortgage arranger?
I think it was just a sales opportunity. I enjoyed sales, had the sales experience.
Selling boxes?
Yeah, I was sort of a business-to-business sales, so going around companies trying to get the business, trying to attract new business, and I was always quite good. I just needed the opportunity to.
Was it literally just seeing an advert?
Yeah, saw an advert in the local paper, applied for it, and then they joked that I was selling houses for the homeless, and thought it'd be good to get me in as a trainee mortgage advisor. Passed all the exams and never looked back.
Okay, so what did you learn about mortgages which has helped you in estate agency?
I think having the good financial understanding of qualifying buyers and that kind of thing. So my experience of estate agency has been working as a mortgage broker in the industry for several years. I learned how the guys did other bits, like the valuations, less so much lettings. It's more of a sales-driven industry. So
2001, Countrywide were still the old-fashioned, and I say that in a good way. Were you feeling the love at that time for Countrywide?
Yeah, they were very good at making you feel that you were working for the best company. So it's over 20 years ago now. There's still some people that I used to work with that are still at Countrywide. So some people are still bought into the dream. Some of the older senior managers still there, still believe that they are the best, working for the best. They were very good at sort of driving that message that the group, the company ethos was very well driven there. But obviously being sort of young and driven to earn more money, I got headhunted because I was pretty good at the mortgages. I was one of the top performers, always winning the trips, winning the awards, and got headhunted by Hart.
What year was that?
That must be 2003.
Okay. How did it make you feel that you were approached?
It's quite nice. It was a bit of an ego boost. Someone wants you, and it was a slightly different format for Hart, but same thing in essence, really.
Didn't Countrywide try and keep you?
Yes. Part of the reason why I decided to leave, it's in the mortgage industry, Countrywide work with a very restricted number of lenders. So I didn't feel I was doing my clients the best service. And obviously with the proposition with Hart, it was multiple lenders, multiple insurance companies that we could offer, and obviously I felt I was doing a better job for my customers.
So how long were you a mortgage arranger at Hartford?
I was there for another couple of years, and it sort of chopped and changed around. Went for a couple of independents, went self-employed for a few years, in and out. At one point, I was just working from home, being a self-employed mortgage broker, and being young and partying still. I wasn't working as hard as I probably could have done, so I kind of missed a bit of the structures. It was quite lonely working from home on my own in my third bedroom, so to speak. So it was a bit no communication. I did miss the thrive and the buzz of the estate agency office, which is how I ended up going back to Hart probably about 4 years after I'd left.
So it was back to 2007.
Yeah, circa then, yeah.
What made you leave Hart and go and work independence?
I think I was more interested in working for myself. So I did a couple of self-employed roles in between, trying to build my own practice and effectively, being my own boss. I did really enjoy picking and choosing the hours I could work, and having that flexibility was great.
I mean, obviously you've set up your own estate agency, which we'll come on to later in this chat. Where do you get that entrepreneurial gene from? Is it from your parents, grandparents?
I don't know, to be honest. I think my dad was fairly entrepreneurial, but he was more of a tradesman. So he'd had
He run his own business?
Yes, he did. Yeah, put signs up for a living. So
okay. And what did you learn from your dad growing up?
That you got to put the hours in to make the money, really. So he wasn't always present in a lot of the school stuff because he was working quite a lot of the time. So.
And what did your mum teach you?
Manners.
Okay.
I think I feel very privileged that my mum and dad are still together. Obviously having that upbringing when we were at school, there was a lot of people had broken families, and like myself, my children, I'm not with their mum anymore. So it was very, very special, I think, to still have my parents together as a good family unit. And
did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got an older brother. He's a plumber. So
okay.
Yeah, we're quite close. He's about 18 months older than me.
Lovely. Must come in handy. Does he live locally?
Well, yeah, but he doesn't give me any discounts, so he doesn't do our gas safeties.
Bless him. Okay, so you went back to Hart in 2007, but did that bug of wanting to set up? I mean, were you still doing mortgages at the
time? I was still a financial advisor, so still a mortgage advisor, and they created a self-employed package, which I was one of the first to go on at Hart.
This
so
is in 07?
Yes.
I was about to say, because they've just set one up in the last year or so, 2 years. You were the trailblazer.
Pretty much. So I was obviously Milton Keynes based, and I went actually back to Bedford. So the guys I got on with at the Bedford office, they were kind of like my friends, so it's fitting them back into Bedford. But I was self-employed on 60% commission, I think it was. So whatever I wrote, if I wrote 10 grand, I earned 6. And then I got transferred back when they moved it all around, back over to Milton Keynes. When they sort of changed it, as they always do, reshuffle stuff. So I was in Central Milton Keynes, probably taking home £7,000 a month, which was very good money at the time. Still fairly good money now. Just being a mortgage advisor. And then
did your colleagues in the office know you were self-employed?
They did, and I would never really turn up to the morning meetings. I'd hate to manage myself now if I had me working for me back then, because I was very much just centred in my own little world of writing mortgages. With a mortgage advisor, you kind of work late. Seeing customers at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night if you have to. I was always very keen to write the business, win the business. So I would never come in for the morning meeting. I would always start at sort of 9:30, 10, because I was seeing customers in the evening. They didn't like that, so they moved me to Northampton.
But hold on a second, you must have been earning them money because of the mortgages you were
Yes,
writing.
yes.
Were they not making the connections?
Well, I think they were, but the way Hart changed it, so we were in one office in Central Milton Keynes, and they decided to open this super office. So they had this new super office model with, they tried to be a bit more local. So they had one central hub with different phone numbers of different areas of Milton Keynes to make it look like I had multiple offices run out of one. And I think the way I was working didn't fit with the new model in the super office. They wanted everyone toeing the lines. They replaced me with 2 employed mortgage brokers and moved me to Northampton on the self-employed basis.
And what year was that?
2009.
Okay, so hold on, the credit crunch had hit at this point.
Yes.
It was hard work then, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I remember the time.
Yeah, I do remember when the crash. I was arranging mortgages. So before the crash, we were doing 125% mortgages at roughly 5.5% interest rates, and then literally after the crash, you could only get a mortgage with two lenders, which were Halifax and Bank of Scotland, with a 10% deposit, and they were going to charge you 7.5% as a 5-year fixed rate, and that was it. So
Just take it or leave it.
yeah, basically, it's like, well, you know, what can you do? So obviously, a far cry away from where the rates and things are now. So money is still really cheap at the moment.
So you moved to Northampton. How did you feel about that?
I didn't like it. I didn't really click in the office. I wasn't really making as much money because the values were a lot lower. So obviously the commissions on the mortgages were quite a bit lower, which is what made me start up Inspired. So me and another chap, we're going to set it up together.
So had you been an estate agent up until this point?
No, just a mortgage broker.
So the person that you joined as a business partner, was he or her?
He was a valuer, yeah. So he was one of the valuers at Heart.
Okay, and did he have equity in the business, or?
He pulled out at the last minute. So literally the day we were supposed to put some money in, he got his wife to phone me to say it doesn't feel, left me a voicemail. It doesn't feel right, so it's not the right opportunity. So I was left with half the money and no business partner. So yeah, kind of did it on my own. Well, actually, that's a lie. My mum and dad put the other half of the money in and said, look, we'll support you, we'll get involved. So they own half the business, whereas I own the other half.
So you started your own estate agency with no valuer and no estate agency experience?
Correct. So I had one of my friends who was renting one of my houses from me. He had some previous estate agency experience and had just sort of closed down a renovations company, and he came on board as my first employee as the self-employed estate agent. So he was growing the estate agency business. I was growing, doing the mortgages still, and he used to like to tell a tall tale, and he used to tell everyone it was his business. But I didn't mind because he actually worked harder for me, and then he left and set up on his own probably in 2016, something like that.
Okay. So those first couple of years of Inspired in 2010, 2011, what would you have done differently in the first 2 years?
Really looked at advertising spend, being more picky, I suppose, less unselective with where we're spending our money. Again, it is very much a people's business. The mortgage company kept the agency going for the first few years, really. So without the mortgage money coming in, we probably wouldn't have collapsed. Milton Keynes is mile for mile more estate agents in Milton Keynes than there is in the whole of London. So it's a very competitive market. You've got a lot of corporate head offices there. So Countrywide's office was in Leighton Buzzard. Obviously, Connell's are quite prevalent there. So a lot of other towns and other places, they're full of independents, but it was very much corporate led in Milton Keynes.
And what about your staffing in those first couple of years?
So the first few years were quite tough to get staff. Obviously had the guy, Jamie, working for me, doing the bulk of the agency, but obviously...
Or bulk of the listing?
Yeah,
valuing
and the selling. So I was just doing the mortgages, he was doing the viewings and everything effectively. I was covering the lettings, so I kind of grew the lettings just off the back of investors we sold to. So
you just went on a few ALA courses and learned how to be a
letting. I bought the South Court pack and read that. So yeah, that was kind of our good grounding from it.
Okay.
And yeah, so trying to attract staff was quite difficult. Didn't really want to pay out PAYEs. I was looking for people for commission.
POAs?
PAYE.
Oh, right, yeah.
Commission hungry sales staff. So we kind of had self-employed sales staff that were looking to.
Okay, this is 2012. You know, I mean, it's hard enough in 2022 to get people to step over to self-employed agency.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
I kind of had a personal connection with a lot of staff that came aboard. So I had one of the ladies I worked at Heart, she moved up from London. She had a child, so obviously wanted flexible working, so that worked for her with childcare. Very good negotiator. I had another guy that we worked at Countrywide together, but at different areas. So he came on board to obviously do selling and listing. I got one of my other friends got made redundant out of recruitment, so I trained him up to be an agent. So kind of got through with people that knew me and trusted me, and obviously had that initial basis that, you know, they know I was good for it, so they came on board kind of thing, and we kind of grew to quite a good size.
Now, I know we've spoken in the past, but 2012 was probably your lowest point in a estate agency, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was one point where we just had such a terrible week. Obviously, if anyone is in residential sales know that sales can fall through at any time, and there was literally like 90% of the pipeline fell through in one day, whereas buyers pulled out, down their value surveys, vendors decided not to move. So had a one point where we kind of were worrying where we were going to get the money to pay everything at the end of the month, because we were expecting a lot of exchange predictions to come through, and they were just collapsing left, right, and centre.
How did you cope with that, apart from credit cards? And
Yeah, well, as a business owner, you just kind of find a way, really. I think we focused a bit on doing some tenant finds just to get some quick cash come in to cover bits, changed the focus of what we were doing, resold a couple of the units, so they were back in the pipeline. But obviously there's a few more months for it to come through, and again, the mortgage company was always prevalent to be able to put money in to cover the costs.
What did you learn from that time?
Just that you need to have a diverse income stream, really. So if we were just focusing on residential sales, it would have been a lot harder. Obviously, I was running the lettings portfolio, so I got it to around about 50 when I decided to employ someone to exclusively focus on lettings, because it was too much for me doing the mortgages and the lettings and running the business. And I did stop doing the mortgages for a while because, again, trying to focus on family and the business. So when I had the children, I got two boys, 2013, 2014. It was crucial to spend my time with them rather than seeing clients every evening. It was something that we decided to sub that work out and focus on the general day-to-day agency.
2014, you opened up your second office.
Correct.
Now they say, and I think a year later you opened up your third one in Rushden.
Yes. Yeah.
They always say that the second office is the tricky one.
Yes, we didn't keep the second office in Milton Keynes very long because it was supposed to be a good idea to maximise on. We were getting quite a lot of repossessions. We were on the panel for a couple of repossession agents. So if a different postcode, you've got different areas, different repossessions, and we were making good money on the repossession sales, helping buy the lettings books. They were generally investors that were buying them, and then you pick the lettings business up on the back of it. So we had a central Milton Keynes office and we had a Bletchley office, and then when we went to open the Bletchley office, the guy, Jamie, that started working for me, decided that he wanted to branch out on his own. So he left and set up his own business, and the lease ended in the TMK office. So we just relocated everything to Bletchley, which is why having two overheads in one town didn't seem to be fruitful. But I bought a building in Rushden where I got another guy I worked with at Hartford was working for me over there. And I've got the two successful operations at the moment.
What would you do differently by opening up that second office? I mean, was the Rushden office, the person that you set up there, does he have equity in the business?
No. Because
they often say, unless you have a mini-me or someone with equity opening up a second office, it's really, really tough, and 5 out of 6 will close. What did you do differently in Rushden, because it's still going now?
It is still going now. I had changed the entity from when we initially started, so I've got two guys over there that do now have equity. So it was, in hindsight, probably wouldn't have expanded so much so quickly. But when you're keen, young, and hungry, you're thinking world domination, and there's no failure. It's a first attempt in learning. So you learn from these things.
So do you think the adage of put someone with equity or skin in the game or a mini me in the second office is? Can you think of any other advice you'd give?
No, I think that's crucial. I think having someone that lives and breathes it as well as you do is crucial to having a second operation.
Now, by which this time you'd started to get into buy-to-let. I think you built your first one at around the turn of the millennium. How you being an investor, buy-to-let landlord, help you run your agency?
It gave me an insight on the lettings business, because when I was buying my first few buy-to-lets, I self-managed. So I was a self-managing landlord rather than using an agent, partly because the agent's valuations were lower than what I thought I could achieve, and I was always getting higher rent than what the lettings agents at the time were telling me. So I knew there was a bit of scope there for me to maximise my earning potential on them. And being in the industry, so to speak, I found it quite easy to do the management side of things.
I mean, quite often you see many landlords who've got a little bit of a portfolio who decide they want to become letting agents, but then actually make a hash of it. How did you not fall into that trap?
I think with my mortgage background, obviously being fully transparent with everything doing mortgages. I wasn't going to go into anything without knowing the ins and outs of how it would work.
Are you a bit of a detail perfectionist?
No, I'm more of an ideas generalisation, but when I'm doing things for other people, so as a landlord, I knew how I wanted my property to be managed, which was the ethos of how we set the lettings
Do you not
company
like
up.
to get down dirty in the minutiae? Are you more of a big picture person?
Yeah, I do a bit of both. I would never rule anything out, but I'm less of the detail. I'm more of the big concept. Let's get it done, and then I let someone else worry about all the detail.
Okay, because if you've got you've got Danielle, who is basically your right hand lady, isn't she?
Yeah, she pretty much runs the whole lettings operation for me.
How do you allow, if you like the big picture, people who tend to be big picture people fear being taken advantage of by others and love to be in control. How do you let go of that? How do you let go of that fear?
I don't really have a lot of fear of things, which is why I'm quite happy to try things and give it a go. I've pioneered quite a few things in my life.
Well, that's having a go, but it's letting go of control.
Yeah, I think, again, the people I work with, I've implicitly trust. So obviously Danielle's been with me a long time, and I worked with her previously.
She's a star, isn't she?
Yeah, she's really, really good. I kind of don't really have to get too involved, and sometimes when there's a problem, she comes in and we sort of work through it together and get through stuff. So
How do you go about finding a Danielle? Because there's plenty of people out there that would absolutely, you're a big agent in terms of known in the industry. Well, hopefully you'll be better known by now. But John Paul has Adele. You need that right hand person. How do you find that person?
well,
I mean, when you met Danielle,
yes.
I mean, I've known her for 8-9 years. You can tell she's evolved.
Yes.
Did she have that capability when you saw her?
When I first met Danielle, we were both working at Hartford. So we obviously worked together
What
at
job was she
Milton
doing?
Keynes. She was lettings, not the manager. She was, I think, she was negotiator, yeah. And then she went over to another competitor. I tried to get her. She didn't want to join me first of all, and then another year later, we kind of cracked it. And then obviously she's never looked back. So I kind of let her run it as her thing. So effectively, she's got full control, full autonomy to grow the lettings business, and we are in a fairly good position now from where we started in almost 12 years ago.
You did your first acquisition in 2020.
Yes.
Quite late in the game. What made you want to do an acquisition?
Just looking at ways to grow the lettings portfolio. So when you're analysing all your business you do, rather than working on the business and being in the business, you kind of look at where the value is, what do we do, how do we focus, which is why I do a lot of developments, because I earn good money on the developments, and
Is that where you get your kick?
Yeah, it does give me a kick turning a horrible property into something nice, and obviously making it a nice home for someone to rent is what I do get a passion for. But I do enjoy the agency as well. I do enjoy the buzz of the office, do enjoy tying up a sale or agreeing a let or getting an instruction come on. So I still dip my toe in the water and kind of cover when people are off. But my main focus is development and letting. So growing the lettings portfolio, we kind of stagnated around about the 200 mark, and I went on Agent Rainmaker with old Sally Dawson, and that kind of inspired me to look at other ways of doing stuff.
Her and Kate are very good, aren't they?
Yeah, no, we really enjoyed that, and sometimes it gives you just a different outlook, a different perspective. So Danielle and I went on that. I think she went on the one with Declan as well. So we kind of sort of keep our toe in the water with those guys a little bit, just to keep on top of stuff. And then acquisitions, nothing I'd really considered or thought about doing first of all. But then obviously putting the feelers out for people who had a small portfolio. We got the first one over the line in 2020, second in 2021, and two more.
Were you just sending letters out?
It's picking up the phone. It's just pick
that
up the
easy?
phone. Yeah, it's people I know, and send texts, sending. I sent MK Property. I did that acquisition. Took 2 years to get it over the line, and I sent the text on the Sally Dawson course. So it was like, what can you do? Who can you think of? I was like, I'll just text the owner. He's like, yeah, we'll talk. So we sat, have a coffee.
Is it as simple as if you ever consider selling?
Yep.
Now it's interesting you knew these people. The amount of I used to be head of recruitment at Belvoir, and part of my remit, although I never got involved because Emma was fantastic, was acquisitions, and the amount of times I saw people only sell to a particular franchisee because they built a relationship with that person, because the landlords were kind of their babies. They wanted to make sure that someone else was going to look after their babies. Do you think that's important that you've got that relationship with them?
Absolutely. I think anyone that has set their own business up, it is like your child. It is your work baby. You've put your blood, sweat and tears in that. So obviously some of the acquisitions we do, we're buying shares in the business, obviously keeping the business going, and some has been an asset purchase. So when you are selling, people want that assurance that you're not just going to plunder the business and put all the fees up and hike it. It's obviously being a small independent. Other small independents appreciate that, and I'd like to think I've got a fairly good reputation that people know they can trust me.
So how many acquisitions have you done now then?
Still on 2. I've got 2 in the pipeline.
Lovely. And in hindsight, what would you have done differently?
Done it earlier.
And with regard to the actual process itself?
Getting the right solicitor is key. So I think that's crucial. Agreeing as much as you can with the owner before getting it into heads of terms. Try and iron out all the bits, because a lot of professional fees can get charged. The people that just try and they've got your best interest at heart, but if you're trying to get the professional advisors to do stuff, they can spend a lot of time arguing over small points where you can get it easily resolved.
In essence, agree the guts of it before the solicitors get involved.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Now, you rebranded your estate agency from Inspire to MK, didn't you? Or partly rebranded?
Well, I purchased MK Property, and I've got them running as 2 different entities. So I've got Inspired still running, I've got MK Property. So we're moving all the lettings bulk into MK Property. Being in the Milton Keynes, I really like the brand MK Property, which is one of the reasons I was really keen. That was the acquisition we did last year, yeah. So MK Property is running. So I'm toying with the idea whether to set up another sales team in there or just keep them separate, one for sales, one for lettings.
Decisions.
Yeah.
But then quite interestingly, in the last 12 months, you took on the Progressive Property Network, which is kind of like a club for landlords, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Progressive are one of the biggest training providers. I think they are the biggest training provider of property courses in the UK. So they obviously help people that haven't a clue about buy-to-let or flips or HMOs, whatever their chosen strategy is to make money in property. And obviously we are looking at ways to market ourselves, and we felt that linking up with them and doing our monthly property meets would be a good idea to get landlords, get our name out there, and obviously help grow the business in all aspects.
And is it working?
Yeah, we took the franchise just before COVID and lockdown, so it was on ice for a year. We started in October last year, and we are getting on average 40 to 50 people through the door. Okay. So it's
like most things, you've got to tickle them, you've got to build the relationship, you've got to nurture them. They're not going to come in with a set of keys saying.
No, you're right, but obviously we're quite fortunate. We do have a database. We've now got another database with MK Properties. We've got a big list of landlords, investment buyers that are registering, that we can try and help along the way, and getting the message out there with the guys. And it's I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy the property development side and the helping people side. So I think if there's anything we can do to try and help people.
Well, if you think about it, the PPN is helping different aspects of the business. It could potentially bring your mortgage business in.
Yep.
It could also bring you landlords with properties to let.
Yep.
Potentially even sell.
Well, and company let. So tenant fee ban was a massive change in the industry. You can still charge to company let. So we have a lot of serviced accommodation type businesses in Milton Keynes, which we understand, which most letting agents don't. So obviously we take on customers as long as they're compliant with the serviced accommodation stock. So we can still maximise our earnings from that potential.
So what's the future for Neil Briggs and his property empire?
We are midway through a merger with another firm. A very good friend of mine set up his own agency a couple of years after me. So we're in the throes of merging our businesses together. So we can have a bit more of a fluid working relationship.
That's quite brave, going back into partnership with someone.
Yeah. My mum and dad are obviously getting a bit long in the tooth. So they've been silent partners for years. And I think when you've known someone for a long time and they've always done what they said they're going to do, which is vice versa, my side to his, then it's more of an easier mix in the equation. I'm growing the mortgage services business, we're growing the lettings business, looking at other acquisitions together, and trying to merge the two businesses together, which will bring cost savings as well as obviously a bit better coverage.
Are you still keeping the separate brands?
Yes.
Clever. Yeah, that's a wise thing to do. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
What else is the future?
I'm still heavily involved in property, so doing more networking events. We're doing more development stuff, so trying to help people through that process. So yeah, I'm just sort of building my own little empire along with the estate agency too.
Looking back at everything that's gone since, final question, would you change anything?
I don't think I would. I think I've got here today with the lessons I've learned along the way. With some would say mistakes, but with the learnings that I've made over the time. So, not that you can change anything. If I would have done something differently, I'd have bought more property in 2001. And I think we all would have done, but we haven't got that crystal ball, and I didn't know at the time I had that equity I could have released to buy property. It wasn't until I started becoming a mortgage advisor that I realised, hold on a minute, I'm sitting on a lot of cash in my house. I can pull out money and buy more properties. So, I like to educate people to know that they can invest in their future and they can become financially free through property.
Thank you for your time today, Neil.
Thank you, Chris.